There are certain things you should never say to toxic people. Not because you owe them silence, but because your words can become weapons in their hands. Toxic people love twisting conversations, controlling outcomes, and keeping you stuck in a cycle of guilt, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. Understanding what not to say is one of the strongest shields you can have. Let's uncover the 5 dangerous things you should never say to toxic people and why these words can actually make things worse. When dealing with toxic people, one of the most common mistakes we make is using absolute statements like "you always" or "you never." On the surface, these phrases might seem like a way to express our frustration or to emphasize how often someone repeats harmful behavior. But in reality, they are dangerous when used with toxic individuals. Toxic people are masters of manipulation, and when you use absolutes, you actually hand them a tool to control the conversation and escape responsibility. They will immediately latch onto the extreme wording and try to prove you wrong by finding exceptions. For example, if you say, "You never listen to me," they will quickly dig into the past and say, "That's not true. Remember that one time I listened to you last week." And just like that, the focus shifts from the issue you were trying to address to a petty argument about technicalities. Instead of addressing the harmful behavior, the toxic person now makes you feel guilty for using the word "never" or "always." This is one of their favorite tricks. They deflect the real issue by turning the conversation into a debate about your choice of words. This tactic not only protects them from accountability, but also drains your emotional energy because suddenly you're no longer talking about how their actions hurt you. You're now stuck defending whether your words were completely accurate or slightly exaggerated. It's a trap that toxic people set effortlessly, and the worst part is you won't even realize you've been pulled into it until the argument leaves you feeling confused, frustrated, and unheard. The truth is, absolutes rarely reflect reality. Nobody always does something or never does something unless it's a strict rule or law of nature. Toxic people understand this, and they will weaponize this weakness in your statements to make you feel like you're overreacting, being unfair, or even attacking them. The more you use these extreme phrases, the more they'll use them to turn the tables on you. You may have started with a valid concern, but they will twist it until you start questioning yourself. Was I too harsh? Was I wrong to say that? Did I just blow things out of proportion? And in that moment of self-doubt, the toxic person gains power over you. What's even more damaging is that toxic people love to hold on to these moments and bring them up later. They might say things like, "You always exaggerate," or "You're always so dramatic." They store your absolute statements like ammunition for future fights. It becomes a pattern where your words are constantly used against you, making it harder for you to speak up the next time. If you want to maintain your strength in conversations with toxic people, it's important to speak with precision and avoid giving them openings. Describe their behavior based on specific instances instead of using sweeping statements. Say things like, "When this happened yesterday, I felt ignored," instead of "You never listened to me." This way, you keep control of the narrative and you make it much harder for them to twist your words. Speaking with clarity is one of your greatest shields against toxic manipulation. When you stop using absolutes, you stop feeding their game. Saying, "I'll change for you," may sound like a loving or peaceful gesture in the heat of an argument. But when you say this to a toxic person, you are actually handing them the key to control you. Toxic people thrive on power dynamics, and the moment they realize you are willing to reshape yourself, just to meet their expectations or to keep them around, they will use that to their advantage. This isn't about healthy compromise. This is about surrendering your identity, your values, and your boundaries in hopes of gaining their approval or avoiding conflict. A toxic person doesn't see your willingness to change as a sign of love or commitment. They see it as a green light to keep pushing you further, to keep making demands, and to mold you into something that serves their needs. The danger in offering to change for a toxic person is that their standards and expectations are usually unclear, shifting, and designed to keep you off balance. Even when you change one part of yourself, it will never be enough. They will always find something else that you need to fix. This constant chase for their approval becomes a moving target, and slowly you lose sight of who you are and what you truly want. Your energy is consumed by trying to please them, while their respect for you decreases because you've shown that you are willing to abandon your own self-worth just to keep the peace. Toxic people often look for relationships where they can dominate emotionally. When you say, "I'll change for you," you confirm to them that they have the upper hand. They can now control your behavior, your appearance, your thoughts, and even your friendships by simply suggesting that you need to improve or adjust. This sets up a toxic cycle where they create imaginary faults in you, and you scramble to fix them, hoping that someday they will finally accept you. But toxic people rarely, if ever, reach that point of genuine acceptance because their power comes from keeping you in a position of feeling not good enough. Another hidden danger is that by focusing so much on changing yourself for them, you start losing connection with your own needs and desires. You silence your voice. You shrink parts of your personality. You stop doing the things you love, or you suppress your opinions because you're afraid they won't like them. Over time, you become a version of yourself that is unrecognizable, someone you crafted not for your own happiness, but to survive in their world. True, healthy relationships allow room for growth, but that growth should be mutual, respectful, and uplifting. It should never feel like a one-sided sacrifice where you are the only one changing. Toxic people want to shape you because they know that the more you bend, the easier it is for them to keep control. Protect your sense of self. Never offer to change just to earn space in someone's life. The right people will respect who you are without asking you to break yourself into pieces. When you ask a toxic person, "Why can't you just be nice?" it may feel like a reasonable question. After all, kindness is something we naturally expect in healthy relationships. But with toxic people, this question does not lead to understanding. It leads to manipulation. Toxic people don't see kindness as a goal. They see it as a tool. When you ask them why they can't be nice, you're unknowingly inviting them to temporarily fake kindness just to pull you back into their emotional trap. They may act nice for a short time to confuse you, to make you question your feelings, or to regain your trust. But their kindness is almost never real. It is simply another part of their control game. When you plead for kindness from a toxic person, you place yourself in a weak position. You're showing that you still care about their approval, that you still want their affection, and that you're hoping they can change. Toxic people use this hope against you. They know that all they have to do is sprinkle a little bit of false kindness here and there to make you doubt your instincts. They will say sweet things, show temporary concern, or offer small gestures that make you think maybe they aren't so bad after all. But this is a cycle. The kindness is never consistent, and it disappears the moment they feel they have secured your loyalty again. What's even more dangerous is that toxic people use this temporary kindness to reset the emotional timeline. You might have been upset about something they did. You might have been preparing to walk away. But when they suddenly start acting nice, it throws you off. You start to question whether your feelings were valid in the first place. You may think, maybe I was overreacting, or maybe I should give them another chance. Toxic people rely on this emotional confusion to keep you attached to them. By asking them to be nice, you're also missing a crucial truth. Truly kind people don't need to be asked to be kind. They don't need to be reminded or begged to show basic human decency. If someone's kindness only shows up when you demand it, it's not real kindness. It's a performance. Toxic people know how to act sweet when they feel like they're losing control, but their true nature always returns once they feel secure again. This question, why can't you just be nice, also gives them an opportunity to twist the blame back onto you. They might say, I would be nice if you weren't always attacking me. Or maybe I'd be kinder if you treated me better. In that moment, you become the problem in their story. They reverse the roles and make you feel guilty for expecting basic respect. The best way to handle a toxic person is not to ask for kindness, but to protect your boundaries when kindness is missing. You don't need to explain why you deserve respect. You don't need to wait for them to finally treat you well. When someone shows you that kindness is optional for them, believe them and decide how you will move forward. Never beg a toxic person to give you what should come naturally. Telling a toxic person, I trust you completely, might seem like a way to build connection. But with someone who manipulates, controls, or emotionally abuses, this is one of the most dangerous things you can say. Trust is something precious. It's meant to grow gradually, to be earned through consistent behavior, honesty, and mutual care. But toxic people see blind trust not as a responsibility, but as a powerful weapon they can use against you. When you hand over your complete trust to them, especially too quickly or too easily, you are essentially giving them permission to cross your boundaries without question. Toxic people are not looking to protect your trust. They are often looking for ways to take advantage of it. When you say you trust them completely, you let your guard down. You stop noticing red flags. You begin to second guess your own instincts when something feels wrong, because you've already told yourself that this person can do no harm. Toxic people love when you reach this point. It makes their job much easier because they know you are now less likely to question them, less likely to push back, and less likely to walk away. When they start to show their true colors, they can lie, manipulate, or deceive you with confidence because you've already declared that your trust in them is total and unconditional. The most damaging part of this is that toxic people can use your trust as a trap. They might start asking for personal information, access to your social life, or even financial support, all under the protection of your declared trust. And because you've already told them you trust them fully, they can guilt you into believing that questioning them would make you look disloyal, paranoid, or unloving. They create a scenario where doubting them feels like betraying them, even though they might already be betraying you. Another problem is that toxic people often bring this statement back to you as a form of manipulation. If you ever do start to question them later on, they'll say things like, but you said you trusted me completely, making you feel like you're breaking your own promise by holding them accountable. They twist your words to make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. Real trust should never require blindness. Even in the closest, healthiest relationships, Trust should have limits and healthy checkpoints. You should be able to observe someone's patterns over time and make thoughtful decisions about where your trust begins and where it should pause. It's okay to trust, but it's dangerous to trust someone so fully that you silence your own warning signs. Toxic people don't earn your trust. They often fast track it by being charming, by creating quick emotional intimacy, or by making you feel special in ways that cloud your judgment. But that trust is not real when it's rushed. It's important to protect your heart by building trust slowly and watching how someone behaves when things don't go their way. A toxic person will often reveal themselves under pressure or when they are denied what they want. If your trust is real, it should always be accompanied by awareness, not blind loyalty. When you tell a toxic person, "It's all my fault," you're not just apologizing. You're surrendering control. Toxic people love to shift blame, and when you offer to take responsibility for everything, you're feeding directly into their need for power. They are more than happy to let you carry the weight of guilt because it relieves them of any need to self-reflect or change their harmful behavior. In fact, when you blame yourself, it reinforces their false belief that they are always right, always the victim, and never the one who needs to take responsibility. Toxic people often create situations where you feel pressured to apologize for things that aren't even your fault. They can twist your words, exaggerate your mistakes, and make you feel like you're the reason everything went wrong. Over time, if you repeatedly say, "It's all my fault," you begin to internalize their version of the story. You start believing that you are the problem. You convince yourself that maybe if you were more patient, more understanding, or less emotional, things would be better. But this is a dangerous lie. The more you accept full responsibility for situations that involve two people, the more you shrink your self-esteem and lose your sense of what's fair. Toxic people are excellent at using guilt as a form of control. When you willingly take the blame, they realize they can keep you trapped by making you feel like you are the one who always needs to fix things. They know you will be the one to apologize first, the one to smooth things over, and the one to make sacrifices to repair the relationship. This creates an unbalanced dynamic where they continue to hurt you without consequences, and you continue to take the emotional burden on yourself. What makes this even more damaging is that toxic people will often remind you later that you admitted fault, even in situations where you were manipulated into doing so. They'll say things like, "Remember, you said it was your fault," or, "Oh, you always mess things up, you even admitted it yourself." They use your own words to trap you, to control you, and to silence your future objections. The truth is, taking responsibility for something you didn't do or for something that wasn't entirely your fault will never bring peace or resolution with a toxic person. It only fuels the cycle where they stay in power and you stay stuck feeling guilty. In healthy relationships, both people can admit their mistakes and work towards solutions together. But with toxic people, they prefer to keep all the blame on you so they can avoid accountability completely. You don't need to carry all the responsibility just to keep someone happy. You don't need to break yourself to hold the relationship together. Real growth happens when you can see clearly what belongs to you and what doesn't. You should always own your part, but never accept blame that isn't yours. Protect your peace by recognizing when you're being manipulated into guilt that doesn't belong to you. You deserve to stand in your truth without carrying the weight of someone else's mistakes. When you say to a toxic person, "You're right, I must be crazy," you are doing more than just dismissing your own feelings. you are actively handing them power over your reality. Toxic people thrive on gaslighting, which is a form of manipulation where they twist the truth, make you doubt your own memory, and convince you that your feelings are wrong or exaggerated. When you call yourself crazy, even sarcastically or in frustration, you reinforce their narrative. You give them permission to continue their manipulation because now you've publicly accepted the role they've been quietly pushing on you. The one who is always overreacting, the one who is always wrong, and the one who can't trust their own mind. Toxic people often use subtle tactics to chip away at your confidence. They will question your version of events, dismiss your emotions, or tell you that you're being too sensitive. Over time, these small moments accumulate, and you start to question yourself more than you question them. When you finally say, "Maybe I am crazy," it feels like a moment of clarity, but it's actually the result of a long process of emotional erosion. They've been working toward that moment. And once you say it, they seize it as proof that they were right all along. The danger of accepting this label is that it changes how you see yourself. You start distrusting your emotions, your perceptions, and your judgments. You second guess your instincts because you've already convinced yourself that you're the one who is irrational. Toxic people use this self-doubt to tighten their grip on you. They can now easily dismiss your concerns with phrases like, "See, you always make things up," or "You can't even trust your own thoughts." You become less likely to stand up for yourself because deep inside, you fear that you might actually be the problem. By calling yourself crazy, you also make it harder for others to take you seriously. Toxic people might repeat your words to friends, family, or colleagues, even they said they're crazy. It becomes part of their story about you, a story where you are unstable, unreliable, or too emotional to be believed. It's a weapon they can use to discredit you anytime you try to speak up or expose their toxic behavior. Even worse, you start to silence yourself. You pull back from sharing your thoughts or feelings because you worry you'll be seen as dramatic, irrational, or unbalanced. This isolation is exactly what toxic people want because it keeps you trapped in a world where only their version of the truth matters. Your self-esteem slowly fades, and you become dependent on them for validation because you no longer trust yourself. It's essential to break this pattern. Never surrender your mental clarity by adopting labels that toxic people plant in your mind. Your feelings are valid. Your thoughts are meaningful. You are not crazy for noticing when something feels wrong or when someone is treating you unfairly. Trust your own voice. The more you listen to yourself and honor your emotions, the stronger you become, and the harder it will be for toxic people to control you. When dealing with toxic people, the words you choose carry incredible weight. Toxic individuals are skilled at twisting conversations, shifting blame, and using your own statements against you. Saying things like, "You always," "I'll change for you," "Why can't you just be nice?" "I trust you completely," "It's all my fault," or "Maybe I'm just crazy," may seem harmless in the moment, but these phrases slowly give away your power, your self-respect, and your emotional freedom. Toxic people feed off your guilt, your confusion, and your willingness to shrink yourself to keep the peace. The truth is, you don't have to over-explain, beg for kindness, or take responsibility for things that aren't yours. You deserve relationships where your boundaries are respected, your feelings are valued, and your voice is heard. Protect your energy by speaking carefully, by trusting your instincts, and by walking away from those who try to control your reality. Your peace is not negotiable.